Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. Now, I'm going to be doing something totally different. No album review here, but instead sort of a movie review slash overview of everything that I've watched thus far in January. One of my New Year's resolutions this year was to watch more movies slash watch stuff that's more cinema, but also watch stuff that I enjoy too. Do you want to point out there will be spoilers in this, so if you haven't watched these movies or you're interested in watching them and don't want it to be spoiled, click away now please. I don't want to ruin the movie for you. But first up, we've got Baby Driver. He basically drives for people who are doing heists, and it starts off with this really upbeat, groovy music that just seems to be edited so well to all of the cutscenes. The action, the opening for this, the action is just so good. Literally, the scenes are cut exactly to the music, and then there's a scene when the first heist is over with that we see, where in the background, so what you see comes up with lyrics of what the song says on a tree or on a wall, and it's, I don't know, there's just something about this that makes it really intoxicating. The music that's chosen, that goes against the action of this, it's such a good action movie. But as we progress on, Baby kind of realizes that these heists is not really what he wants to be doing. He only does it for the money, and he soon finds himself becoming uncomfortable with kind of just being the driver, because even though there's a sense of disassociation with being the driver, you know, he's not actually really killing anybody, he is the one that's driving the people who have just killed people, and he finds himself sort of in his own world whilst all of this is going on around him. And as the movie progresses, we basically discover that the reason that he has tinnitus is because his mum and dad die in a car crash, and Baby, he had a really good relationship with his mum, really misses his mum, not so much with his dad, and he finds peace in music because that's what his mum loved too. He then falls in love with this girl called Deborah. And Deborah doesn't know what's going on with Baby. Baby doesn't really speak much anyways, as it is. But he keeps everything a secret from her. Baby ends up really falling in love with Deborah, and he really wants to run away with her. So he takes her on a few dates, they kind of make some plans, and just when he thinks he's out of driving for all of these heists, Doc rings him up again, basically says, "You're running another job." Baby says that he does not want to do it, but he's kind of got himself into a bad crowd at this point, and the Doc's just like, "We know where you live, we know that you have an uncle who has disabilities, and we'll do everything in our power to make sure that you drive for us." And just as he wants to run away with Deborah, it turns out that he can't. This movie, to me, is just so epic. The intro scene is absolutely amazing. The movie syncs with the songs. The plot line is amazing. Everything about this movie, for me, is just like absolute perfection. When I first rated this, it was a 4 stars. But now, this movie is a 5-star rating for me. The music was just so good. I love the MP3 element. Like I said, it was action-packed. The edits into the music, I felt like I was watching like a TikTok edit. It's just such a fun movie. There's loads of action. It's really fast-paced. It's exciting. The storyline's really good. There's great stunts. Watching the movie sort of leaves you with questions like what's going to happen, and you know, you're kind of wondering where the movie's going to go and how much more action they can add into this. I don't know, I first watched this and I was like, yeah, that was a really good movie, gave it 4 stars. But then, I don't know, I just had this lingering sense of this movie, like something was unfinished with this movie for me. And so I went back and watched it again, and I just got even more hooked onto it, and I've watched it like 3 times this month, and that's why I've changed it to 5 stars. This has become one of my new favourite movies, / a comfort movie of mine. Next up, we've got The Perks of Being a Wallflower. So it covers the story of a young, lonely guy. I'm not going to lie, I can't remember some of these characters' names, because this was at the start of the month. He is trying to find his way into the world. He feels as though he's kind of been left on his own. I think he's put into a new school, and people, you know, don't really want to be friends with him. But he has some mental health struggles, and at the start of the movie, it kind of introduces you to these things. It introduces you to these mental health struggles and how when he is struggling, he writes to one of his friends, but he doesn't actually send the letter off to anyone, and we don't know who this friend is. I think he suffers a lot because one of his old friends, I'm sure, passed away, and he just struggles a lot with his mental health, and he's kind of struggling to find his way into this new school, into the dynamic of being the new kid, until he discovers these great people, which is Emma Watson and Ezra Miller. I'm sorry, I don't know their names in the movie. I can't remember. I need to watch the movie again. And it basically is just an up-and-coming teen movie about the main character sort of discovering who he is, and there's so much self-discovery in it. The music is beautiful. I just felt that it was really, really relatable because, yeah, I don't know, it just felt really deep, and there was a lot to take in whilst watching the movie, but I did enjoy that aspect because it gave it more depth, basically. But then, towards the end of the movie, the main character kind of starts to go into a bad spell when his friends move away and go to college, and he's kind of left on his own. And he ends up discovering what his aunt did to him when he was younger. She basically sexually abused him when he was a kid. And so he had to go to, I've got here a clinic because I don't want to use the wrong terminology or offend people here, but I'm pretty sure it was sort of a mental health outpatient place where he went and people helped him get better. He got therapy, and yeah, I don't know, it's just such an amazing, passionate movie that just feels very relatable, especially if you're young and kind of going through a hard time with figuring out who you are. I give this movie 4 stars / 4.5 because it's such an introspective movie. You really have to do a lot of depth diving into this. I find that there's a very, very powerful message within this, and it just feels really relatable, like I said, with the mental health and figuring out who you are. I also think that it's a very powerful movie because not only did it make me powerful, but being able to talk about sensitive topics in a movie like that did, I think it was explored very intentionally. The reason that it's not like a 5-star movie for me is because sometimes I was a little confused as to where the story was going. There was a lot of parties, and sometimes I just felt a little bit confused with the movie. But overall, it was a great movie. Next up, we have got Dead Poets Society. My God, I was not prepared at all for this movie. To kind of give a breakdown of it, it's basically just, it follows a group of boys at this school, and they get a new teacher. And this teacher, you know, because he's new, he's kind of seen as like a laugh-off kind of character. But then suddenly this teacher strikes so much inspiration in his students. He inspires them to be the best, to chase their dreams no matter what their parents say, what their friends say, who's going to make fun of them. You only live on this world once. You get one life, and it's pointless trying to chase after things just because it's somebody else's dream. You need to do what you want to do and ruthlessly pursue it. The group of boys end up finding out that the teacher, who was Robin Williams, had something when he was a kid called the Dead Poets Society. It's basically just the group of boys get together and they talk about poems and recite poems that they like and make up poems. And again, I really like this because it's very introspective. This movie is just right up my street. Like, I know that's such a weird way of putting it, but there's a lot of depth to this movie. It's very cinematography based and very introspective based, and I love movies that are like that. I love how Neil ends up following his dream, but the plot twist at the end, for me, the movie stops when Neil finishes the play, and that's where it stops, with Neil doing a great job. But unfortunately, there's an absolutely massive plot twist at the end where Neil's father will not have the fact that Neil wants to be an actor. He does not like this fact that Neil wants to be an actor. His father thinks that it's an absolute joke, and Neil is very upset at this. He feels as though there's nothing he can really do to persuade his father to allow him to do what he wants, and in the end, Neil basically kills himself. It's really, really sad. Like, my heart was just absolutely pulled out of my chest from this. I just think that this movie has such a powerful, powerful message to not only young people, but to parents too. I just think it's great. For me, this is a 4.5-star movie, lingering on the 5 stars because this was amazing. I just rated this because it just made me see more potential in myself and made me feel empowered and inspired to do what I want to do rather than what other people tell me. It allowed me to realise why I love the arts so much, why I love watching movies for, why I love music so much for, and reading, and just immersing yourself into this other world. I thought that the acting was great in this, and like I say, the ending was absolutely gut-wrenching, which is, yeah, the plot twist was, I wish it didn't happen, but that's kind of what makes the movie good, if that makes sense. Next up, we've got Kill Bill Vol. 1, and my summary for this movie is: a woman called the Bride wants to get revenge on the people that tried to kill her and her friends while at the wedding rehearsal. That's basically a full rundown of this movie. You follow the main character called the Bride, and yeah, I'm not going to spoil it because we'll get into Vol. 2 of this, but I gave this 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed this. I thought it was great. I think it kind of caught me off guard because the past few movies that I watched had been very introspective. This was a very different vibe, so I think for me, I don't know, maybe it's because I wasn't prepared for what I was watching. It kind of struck me as a little bit different. I loved this because there was so much action in this, like so much acting, and I loved the female empowerment in this. Uma Thurman, you absolute legendary woman. If you're looking for an absolute badass movie to watch where the woman is the main character, this is your movie. It opens up your curiosity too as to kind of what happened and to why it kind of led her to getting killed at her wedding rehearsal. Basically, the bride gets killed, but she ends up going into a 4-month coma and then wakes up and goes to pursue everybody who tried to kill her. I know, I just love this movie. It was so badass. The action scenes were great. You know, it's a Tarantino movie. The camera angles, everything was spot on. We're going to move into Kill Bill Vol. 2. This follows the bride as she goes through more challenges thrown at her and doesn't give up. Basically, this movie expands on the first one. There's a lot more backstory to it. I feel as though a lot more emotion is created in this. You find out what happened to her before she was the bride, and basically she was an assassin for Bill, and her and Bill kind of fell in love, but she wanted to move away from this life and become, I guess, a normal person, a normal civilian in everyday life. And Bill kind of was just like having absolutely none of that, so he went and sort of got rid of everything that she had created for herself so that he could get his revenge on her, I guess, for not being together. But the first movie was about the bride being pregnant and she didn't know whether the baby was alive or not. In the second volume, she discovered that her baby survived. I don't know, the emotion in this movie just felt a lot more higher and more intense than the first movie. The first movie was just action, badass scenes, whereas this was more emotional. It had more of a backstory, and I loved the fact that you got to see more of who the bride was and why exactly she was doing what she was doing for. She basically meets Bill and in the end kills him, and then she gets to be with her daughter. Honestly, it's an absolute great movie. I rated this higher than Kill Bill Vol. 1. I preferred this one over the first one, just because there was still lots of action, but I just found, like I said, the story was deeper and the characters had more depth in this one over the first one. And again, the female empowerment was still there. I freaking loved the Kill Bills so much. Next up, we've got Rainman. Rainman follows Charlie, who had a bad relationship with his dad, and he discovers many years later, I'm talking 27 or something years later, that he has a brother called Raymond who has autism. And when his dad passed away, Charlie was inherited just a car, and I think that was it, whereas Raymond was given $3 million. Charlie becomes upset over this, basically kidnaps Raymond. It's not really portrayed as kidnapping, but it basically is kidnapping. He just takes Raymond out of the place where he is living in order for Raymond's carers to sort of ring up Charlie and make a deal on Charlie getting at least like half of the 3 million. Yeah, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me that he basically kidnaps his brother just to get part of his inheritance. Charlie does become more connected with Raymond as the movie goes by, and in the start of the movie, it's revealed that he had a friend called Rainman, which just ended up being Raymond. Charlie and Raymond become best friends after the Las Vegas scene. I don't know, this doesn't sit right with me. Charlie isn't really all that interested in being around Raymond until he discovers that Raymond is really smart and wins him a load of money in LA. And I don't know, for me, it seems a little bit just ill-intentioned that Charlie only wants to become friend with his brother who is autistic because he can help him. I don't like that. I have very conflicted feelings about this movie. I like it and I don't like it. The ending was sad because Charlie did actually develop a connection and want to be with his brother, but he wasn't allowed, so it was sad when Raymond had to go back home. But I give this movie a 2 stars because, I don't know, like I say, I'm very conflicted about this movie. I feel like I don't like how Charlie treats Raymond, and I appreciate that in its time it was trying to make awareness about autism, which unfortunately was and still is very misunderstood. But I just feel as though this movie was a very one-to-one based representation of autism. I have worked with autistic people before. I have friends who are autistic, and I just don't think it's a very accurate representation of what autism looks like. It's like, yes, this is what autism can look like, but it doesn't look like this for everybody. And I don't know, I just thought it was a very bad representation of autism. But like I say, I know that they were trying to raise awareness about what autism was, but I just don't like the way it was represented. And, you know, like I said, the ending was sad. It did pull at my heartstrings a little bit. Next up, we've got Good Will Hunting. Wow, goddamn, I don't even know where to begin with this movie. You basically follow this young kid who has an absolutely awful childhood. He's basically orphaned, and then when he gets adopted, he is then abused. He just doesn't accept himself for who he is at all. I think he wants to live a life that is below him because that's all he's ever really known. He doesn't want to accept who he really is. And I feel like he also doesn't want to betray his friends either, because this kid is really smart, but he can solve these crazy mathematical equations, but he gets put in jail because he ends up getting in a fight, but then he gets bailed out because he is a genius. And basically, the way that he gets out of jail is one of the professors at the university that he works at for being a janitor gets Will out on a condition that as long as he goes see a therapist once a week and helps this professor with mathematical equations, he can kind of get away from being in jail. But I don't know, the story progresses and it just gets so much more emotionally heavy and deep. And you discover that the reason why Will has such a hard time sort of opening up is because he doesn't allow himself to get attached to others. And he does this obviously as a defense mechanism. And this movie just has so many good quotes in this. There's a part where Sean, aka Robin Williams, is talking to Will, and Will tries to throw these things back in the other person's face to kind of, it feels like, psychoanalyze them, but Sean is trying to tell Will, like, hey, you can recite all of these things that you've read, poetry, things that you've seen from other people, but just because you've read about something doesn't mean that you've learnt the lesson that life can only teach you.
I ask you about love. You called me a sonnet. You've never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable. Known someone who could level you with her eyes. Feeling like God put an angel on earth just for you. Who could rescue you from the depths of hell. And you wouldn't know what it's like to be her angel. To have that love for her be there forever. Through anything. Through cancer. And you would know about sitting up in a hospital room for 2 months holding her hand, because the doctors could see in your eyes that the terms visiting hours don't apply to you. You don't know about real loss, because it only occurs when you love something more than you love yourself. I doubt you've ever dared to love anybody that much. I look at you, I don't see an intelligent, confident man. I see a cocky, scared, shitless kid. But you're a genius, Will. No one denies that. No one could possibly understand the depths of you. But you presume to know everything about me because you saw a painting of mine and you ripped my fucking life apart. You're an orphan, right? Do you think I know the first thing about how hard your life has been? How you feel? Who you are? Because I read Oliver Twist. Does that encapsulate you? Personally, I don't give a shit about all that, because you know what? I can't learn anything from you. I can't read in some fucking book. Unless you want to talk about you, who you are. And I'm fascinated. I'm in. But you don't want to do that, do you, sport? You're terrified of what you might say. You move, Chief.
And I just think that this is a very, very powerful theme. And Will ends up falling in love with this girl. And this scene where Will is in the bedroom with his girlfriend and she says, "I love you," and he says, "I don't love you." Oh my god, I had to watch that like 2 or 3 times because, wow, that scene is very, 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 very powerful. It's just such a powerful movie. It has such a great meaning behind it, and that's why I've given it a 5 stars. It just, to me, felt very inspirational. I felt that I resonated with the story in my own way, in the sense of not being able to open up to people and kind of feeling as though I'm out of place in a certain way. Honestly, there was times when I was watching it and it didn't even feel like the characters were acting. There was this scene where Ben Affleck was, I'm sure they were at a diner grabbing food and Will brought his girlfriend. I don't know, it just didn't even feel like they were acting. I sort of literally felt as though I was with a group of my friends and we were just at a diner. I loved the introspectiveness of this, the emotional depth that this movie created, the introspection that it gave you, not only of life but of yourself. There's so many great quotes in this, and I think this movie just makes you see such a bigger perspective on life as well. Next up, we have got Marty Supreme. I watched this the other day at the cinema, and damn, I was very confused, and I found this movie to be very crazy. It's basically just about Marty, who wants to be the best person he can be at table tennis, and he just wants to become the absolute best. But it seems that he is willing to sacrifice absolutely anything for this dream. Chaos and carnage seem to follow him everywhere he goes. When one crazy thing happens, you think that nothing else weird could happen, but then something even weirder happens after this, and the weirdness just keeps continuing. I loved this movie because there was so much symbolism in it. It was set right after sort of World War II, and Marty is a Jew, and it was kind of exploring what it was like to be a Jew in that time of America and what the American dream was supposed to feel like. It also explored birth and the symbolism of life, and it explored how Marty felt like he was just seen as this joke to everybody else. Everyone was just kind of like, you know, it's the 1950s. Table tennis was just like a, like, get out of here kind of thing. And Marty was kind of sick of just feeling like a joke to everybody. This movie just, honestly, some of the jokes that were made in this, I was quite surprised about because, yeah, they were very dark, humoured jokes, and I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I gave it a 4.5 stars, because as I was watching it, I was very baffled and I was very confused about what the hell this movie was about. I actually had to go home and watch on YouTube what the whole purpose of this movie was about. But again, it left this lingering within me as I left the cinema, and I've spent my time at home kind of just thinking about this movie, and then when I watched the YouTube videos, realizing how powerful the symbolism really was, and it's just, I realized that it was a really, really, really good movie, and it made me want to work hard because it was very inspiring to watch. I mean, I didn't like the fact that Marty came across as an absolute dickhead. I mean, this man was willing to go to absolute every length to be the best that he could, sacrificing everything and everyone that he loved. I didn't really like that about the movie, but I also get why it was portrayed so heavily that way too, which is why I do like it, because I watched interviews and different stuff like that about the director. But yeah, wow, this movie was just very, very powerful. If you haven't seen this, I would definitely recommend. Next up, we have got Chestnut. It's about this girl, Annie, who falls in love with the other main character girl, but she kind of ends up finding herself in the middle of this relationship between the girl and the guy. She ends up kissing the girl and likes the girl, but she also ends up kissing the guy too. And it just felt very relatable to me because, I don't know, I feel like this movie was something that every queer person has experienced before. It's like this sense of when someone isn't totally comfortable or knows their own sexuality, you feel as though a woman loving another woman, it feels very hard to do when this other person isn't as confident in the relationship as you, because all you want is this other person, but yet as a woman you can't necessarily provide the security and the same things that a man can, because it's seen as socially acceptable for a man and woman to be together. But I still feel as though nowadays there is still a lot of homophobia, whether it's internalized or just out in the streets, that can make having a relationship hard. This is, I'm talking about my own personal experience here. Like I have dated someone before where I just felt like I wasn't good enough for her because I wasn't a man. And like I say, it just felt very relatable to me. And Annie kind of felt lost and betrayed by this girl who she was with, because she was getting such mixed signals from this girl. I mean, this girl was kissing her and, you know, doing stuff that you wouldn't just do with a friend, but then she was also flirting with guys, and Annie didn't really know where she stood with her, which is, I gave this movie 3 stars because, I don't know, I resonated with the story, but I don't know, I just felt like the pacing was a little bit off, and I felt that the story didn't really go anywhere. This is a 3-star movie for me, because it did make me yearn, and I did feel understood, but like I say, I don't know, I just felt like there wasn't a lot of depth to the movie. Next up, we've got Do Revenge. I literally finished watching this about, I don't know, half an hour ago or something. This was just like a chill kind of watch. It's not a deep watch. Basically, main character Eleanor befriends Drea, looking as if she wants to get revenge on people who have hurt her and people who have hurt Drea. Max ended up leaking this video online of Drea. Eleanor makes it appear as though she wants to help Drea get revenge because this kid, when she was younger at a day camp, made Eleanor feel like a predator because she opened up and said that she was gay, and then this girl basically said that Eleanor pinned the girl down when that didn't happen. Drea helps Eleanor infiltrate her own friendship group by giving her a makeover, and as the story kind of progresses, you see these two characters kind of fall out of line with who they were and fall into the lines of where they now are, because Eleanor was trying to get revenge on, and Eleanor becomes friends with the people that Drea was friends with, and they end up kind of both falling in love. I thought that the plot twist was actually really good, because as the movie progresses, you think that they're just trying to get revenge on each other's people, I guess, but it ends up that actually Eleanor was trying to get revenge on Drea the whole time, because the story that she told Drea at the start, where the girl who she told made her feel like a predator, was actually Drea, which was a total plot twist, and I actually really liked this. I mean, in the end, they become friends. It's whoop-de-doo, hoo-ha, good plot twist, good ending. I gave this a 3 stars because it wasn't like a really deep movie. But like I say, it was a good plot twist, and I liked how it explored the themes of toxicity and social status and the power dynamics that the different social statuses have, and ultimately friendship. I just thought it was just a fun movie to watch, but for me it wasn't like life-changing. You could kind of see where it was going to go, that Eleanor loses who she is and then discovers who she is again, and Drea stops being the mean, popular girl, and yeah, you could kind of see where it was coming from a mile away, but I do like how the characters changed, even though I didn't feel as though it was personally life-changing. But yeah, that's my movie review. I don't feel as though I'm particularly great at explaining the plot of a movie or necessarily taking the thoughts out of my brain and putting them onto paper or speaking them, but this is my first attempt. I have done my best. If you have any comments on any of these movies or anything to improve the review that I do, please let me know. And as always, I'll see you in another video. Peace.